Today we're talking laundry,
family fun fair,
Phantom Menace 25th anniversary,
and morning affirmations.
Stay tuned to find out.
Hello and welcome to Couple Chat.
Where we
Parents.
discuss topics for you.
Parents. I'm Matt.
I'm Jackie. Let's chat. The other day, I really wanted to commend you and just say how much I appreciate you for going out of your way to, do the laundry, do your part of the laundry. It really kind of helped me out, and it really felt like we were a team at that moment, even though like we weren't doing it together.
Are we not a team at every moment? No.
I know, but you know how much I struggle with laundry. So I really appreciate you doing that. And I was just wondering, like, what was your mindset there? What kind of made you decide to do that?
I don't remember what day it was. Or I think it was this past weekend at some point. I was just, I think I had finished doing the lawn, right?
Yeah.
I mowed the lawn and I was like, I need X, Y, and Z. And I'm noticing it's not in my drawers. And you already had stated that these things were clean and you just haven't gotten a chance to bring them upstairs, whatever. So I was like, all right, I'm going to jump in the shower and then I'll run down there and grab that stuff. And while I was down here, because this is obviously where it is, right?
Yeah.
The laundry is on the other side of our
Wonderful studio wall.
Yes. I was just like, all this stuff is here and I didn't want it to have to sit there any longer. And part of it was I didn't want to have to inconvenience myself and come down here if I needed any of this stuff. And another part of it was, well, I know this is a big hassle. And while I'm dishwasher man, that's like a more self-contained, I don't want to say easier process because it's one of those things where it's like laundry can build up easily because it's out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. Whereas washing the dishes is the epicenter of everyone's home, and especially in ours where most of the house is kind of like a row house. Mm-hmm. Our kitchen is directly in the center. And if it's not maintained, I mean, I know I will lose my mind.
Yeah.
So, it's much more of like, I take care of that every single day, every single moment, because it needs to be, it's not something that we can look away from. It's right there. Right. We use all that stuff immediately, right? Like throughout the day. So laundry piles up. The kids change sizes all the time. Obviously, they're not changing plate sizes all the time. They're not changing cup sizes. They do, but not as often as clothes.
More so like a color, not really like
right.
the size of the plate or anything like that.
Yeah. So ultimately, I was down here and I was like, I know this is a big undertaking and I'm going to take my share and put it away so that I know where my stuff is and I don't have to like keep asking you about it. And also, at least it's 1/4 of this gone from the basement at the moment. Yeah, it's not, the biggest help, I would think, but it was what I could do at that moment in time. And I wasn't thinking of it as, I'm just going to take mine and screw everybody else. It was just like, I need this stuff and I'll just take my stuff. And this will at least only maybe take me a half an hour to fold and put away rather than, let me do everybody's laundry. Like, obviously that is not feasible, clearly.
Right.
So yeah, that was kind of just my mindset around it. And you know much about this, but for me, I'm the type of person that's like, hey, I did a thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this might be a guy thing.
It's a guy thing.
Yeah, I'm not usually the guy thing kind of guy. If that makes any sense. It depends. Not everything. Come on, I'm not the typical guy.
You're not the leave the cabinet open guy, but you're definitely the, hey, look, I folded my laundry guy.
Well, that's what I was getting
hey,
at.
look, I mowed the lawn finally guy.
Well, yeah, but I like that, where it's like, hey, I did the thing, and you're like, it's like that recognition thing. I'm not asking it. It's the episode of Bluey where like Bluey like wags her tail. She realizes like her tail is wagging when she does something good.
Right.
Like it's just that, it's like that silly, like it doesn't mean much, but it does because like, oh wow, you did the thing that I was expecting you to do, but you did it. Great job. And it's
Great job.
Thanks. Awesome. So,
exactly.
So yeah, maybe that was a little part of it, but yeah, that was my big reason for wanting to, just help out as much as I could in that small amount of time I had.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry I couldn't help more.
It's okay. I appreciate every little bit.
Yeah. But we've been trying to get a little more on top of it. And I have been helping in other areas of the laundry too. We've had a couple of laundry parties here and there, but
yeah,
we'll keep getting better.
We'll go further.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about our family fair that we got to go to. It was Wednesday this past week, and it was something that Nate's school threw. So how did you feel about that? What did you think about it?
Yeah, these family fair events that like schools throw or local churches or societies or whatever will throw. We've been to one before. I feel like that one was a little bit more kid friendly, but it was also in a smaller space. It wasn't as spread out. But the way the school did it was they had them down the hallways, and they're table after table after table down this very, very thin hallway. Like the fire marshal was there. He should have given some for sure, because he was in the widest part of the hallway, so he didn't really see the like too many people going through a tiny little hallway with a bunch of tables on one side. But yeah, it just felt very like, here's some information. Haha, here's some junk for you to collect and put in your house. And it was one of those things where like there were certain parts of it that were cool. And then there were other parts of it where I was like, I didn't really need that. There were some things there that were great. Like they had like the DJ. They had a really cool, they had it right in their gymnasium where they have all of their events, where they bring like all the musicians and all the performances and stuff. So that was cool.
That was definitely the best part.
Yeah.
And Nate had a blast with it.
Yeah. And he was able to dance with his friends from his class who showed up. And Emma was having a blast just running around like a crazy girl with balloons. Like they're both having a really good time with that. There was also a paint event that like I totally missed out on. They had actually expanded the reservation spots this year, they told me. And they were like, we had such a influx of people who wanted reservations that we ran out so fast. Right. It was like within the first day.
I saw kids walking around with their paintings afterwards though.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest, just like you said about Nate being a little too young to go into elementary school, I feel like this event was probably, or the painting portion of this event was probably too old for him anyway.
Right.
Maybe next year if they do this again.
Yeah. Or maybe when Emma goes there, maybe. Who knows?
Right.
But that's the thing. Like, okay, so I mentioned like the elementary schools. Each school had their own table. So like if we were going there next year, it would have been cool to meet the principal and like the PTO and like those sorts of people and just, get some gear for that elementary school we're going to. Yeah. But at the same time, we're not there yet. Yeah. We're not at that point where it's like, oh, we know where we're going. We do know, but like we don't need to know that stuff yet. We don't need to see that stuff. Class schedules are changing. School start times are changing for all of us. So it's really gonna adjust accordingly from there.
Right.
So I think that was disappointing for me, but I know it would have mattered for Nate. There was a dog canine unit expose, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were just so many tables, so many things to see, and like.
But the table part of it is not entertaining for children.
Oh, and like Nate and Emma are just standing there and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
they take all the stuff off the table and they're like, oh, bubbles and stickers and keychains. Like the big yellow bag we have of all this junk. Nate's just like sifting through it every day, like pulling new stuff out. And I'm just like, I want to throw this out, but I know we can't because he knows it exists.
Right.
Like if it were Emma, we'd be like, all right, it's gone. See ya. Like didn't even know it existed. But
Right. And
Nate
I mean,
knows.
There were a couple of good insights to have gotten there. There were like some great organizations that I didn't know about that, we became familiar with. And it's nice to get their paperwork and stuff like that so that we could take a look at it. But at the same time, I would have liked to go to something like that as like a community event without the kids, because then we would have time to talk to these people and really like find out more information. It could have been two separate things.
Yeah.
Like they made it seem like it was more of like, hey, this is a family fun night. We're going to do a bunch of family fun stuff, not set up a bunch of tables and have vendors to talk to.
Well, it's funny too, because like the last one we went to, there were characters dressed up.
Oh, yeah.
So you remember there was that meet and greet next to the one table that was like everyone wanted to talk to that table. So it worked out. Everyone was on the one line to see the character.
Right.
And they'd be able to offshoot to that table. And then there were people selling cookies and other stuff. There was a jamboree that gave like free classes away. Like that kind of stuff would have been a little bit more.
They did have face painting at this one, which was cool.
That was cool. Yeah, both the kids got something done. Yeah. But yeah, it was just, a little bit more geared toward the kids. Like I get it, it's for the adults, but family fun, right, family fair. It just not as much for the kids as I would have hoped.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So we had a pretty exciting weekend. We've not only been able to play one of our most nostalgic games, but there was another piece of nostalgia that we got to relive and expose Nate to this weekend. Yes. And how'd you feel about that?
So I had been putting it off for a while. What you're referring to is obviously the Phantom Menace was re-released in theaters, right?
Yeah.
For its 25th anniversary. And, I was like, why am I going to go see this? Because originally I was just thinking about going by myself. There was that one, that date night that we were planning for the Fall Guy that we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
I said to you that night, since you had to go out with your friend, I was like, well, I could just go back home and hang out with your cousin who was watching our kids for the night.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just go see Phantom Menace. Maybe I'll just go and see it by myself. Cool experience. Just, relive my childhood. It's the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in theaters.
Same.
And sadly, the first time that I saw it, I did fall asleep in the theater. How terrible of a Star Wars fan am I? I missed the Duel of the Fates.
How? I don't understand. The music it just swells so high. Like I don't get it.
I don't know what happened that day. I don't know what happened before, after. I just know I was with my dad and I fell asleep and he didn't wake me up. So I woke up and the credits are rolling. And that was pretty mad, yeah. But I thankfully got to see it in full in theaters, like maybe a week later or so, because a friend of mine was throwing a birthday party, and that was his choice to go and see that.
Nice.
So I did get to see it finally. And I mean, when you're 8, I was 8, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, yes, now as an adult, it's not the greatest Star Wars movie, but it still has some amazing moments, and I do love it. And seeing it again now with my son sitting next to me, who doesn't have, an inkling of what a bad movie is.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing the light in his eyes as certain moments happened was heartwarming, and there were a lot of things that I wasn't expecting to happen. And I was getting emotional about stuff that I didn't think I would get emotional about.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we decided to take him. I was back and forth again because I was like, we could just watch it in our theater. Our theater's like the movies and we own it and it's on Disney Plus. Like, why do we need to go and spend money to go see a movie we already own and can watch streaming? But it's different. Yeah. And this is why we love the movies and we're moviegoers, you know, it's just a different experience. And we both told ourselves on the drive there, we were like, all right, experiences with Nate at the movies has not been the greatest. Last time we went, we saw Back to the Future's re-release, and
in the same theater.
Yep. And even though it's one of his favorite movies, it was still really, it was hard for him to sit for the whole thing. And Phantom Menace is 2 hours and 16 minutes. So it's even longer than Back to the Future. And I was already anticipating it not going well the whole time. So we were like, okay, well, if he needs to get up or he's getting antsy, let's just ask him like, hey, do you need a break? Do you want to go? And we told him all this too. And he was mostly fine. He did take 2 breaks, one with me and one with you. And it was fine. Him and I walked. We went to the bathroom, washed our hands. He said he didn't have to go to the bathroom, so we just headed back. And it's funny, he was like, come on, Dad, I don't want to miss anything. So, we went back, and I was trying, it was during Coruscant.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that. I did that, I kind of did that on purpose, because that's like the slowest part of the movie.
Yeah.
But then as we were gone, I was like, oh, but he's going to miss Yoda, and I want him to see Yoda. And I was like, well, maybe if we just get back there with enough time where like Anakin's in front of the Jedi Council, he'll see Yoda and be like, oh, Yoda. But like we came back too early and we were there too long and he was getting antsy anyway. And like he saw Yoda and he was like, wow, Yoda. And that wasn't like, oh my God, now I want to pay attention again. Like he didn't care.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit for him to get back into it, but once the final battle began, then he was pretty sad. There was a couple of moments during it where he was like kind of getting antsy, but like he was pretty like dialed in during the battle. Yeah. Which is, I mean,
how couldn't you?
Yeah. The last 40 minutes of that movie are pretty epic, and I love it, and I'm watching it, it's like, oh, Duel of the Fates is just still one of the greatest lightsaber battles in Star Wars.
I was gonna say, I don't think he's ever seen a lightsaber battle like that, because he's seen 4.
Yeah, of course. We've shown him A New Hope. He's seen Empire, and it's funny. It's funny because
he's a little too young for Empire, though.
Yeah, and that's a thing that I was asking my brother-in-law, because my brother-in-law is a huge Star Wars fan. He saw Empire in theaters, like tells me the story all the time, how his mom covered his eyes when Luke gets his hands chopped off and everything. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah.
But like, I asked him, I was like, well, how did you show your kids the Star Wars movies? And he's like, well, what do you mean? Of course, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. And it's like, yeah, but they were so young. Like, did they really understand? And he just didn't have an exact answer for it.
Yeah.
And truthfully, as a parent now, I'm like, because there really isn't an exact answer. You can only do so much for them to see this reveal the way we did as kids. You may not have even understood that or knew that at all because you weren't much of a Star Wars fan before me.
No.
I know you saw Phantom Menace in theaters. But granted, I just don't think there's any good way. Now there's just so much Star Wars content.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any good way to keep it away from him or them to the age where they would understand, oh my God, Luke's dad is Vader. Like it's just, it's not as easy today as it was back in the day.
Oh, sure.
I don't even remember when I found that out, but I did watch the original trilogy before Phantom Menace because obviously it was released when I was 8.
Right.
So I mean, it's just a hard thing, and I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of letting it happen. And we watched 4 and 5. I think maybe some of 6 at some point, and I don't know how much he's retained, but it is what it is. And this was an experience that I didn't want to lose out on, since both of us, this was our first Star Wars movie in theaters.
Yeah.
Now we can completely say that this was Nate's first Star Wars movie in theaters.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. I really enjoyed being there and seeing it in a theater again.
Me too.
So
yeah.
So anyway, parenting this week. We have our ups and downs all the time. Parenting's very difficult for us at times, but we're taking in stride. And I feel like as they get older, we just get better because we have more experience, right? So this is something that actually happened a couple of weeks ago, and like I've been thinking about it a lot. Haven't really had the conversation with you, but you expressed to me that when you bring Nate to school, you've been doing this thing called affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? And you explained it to me, and it blew my mind. And it's honestly one of your shining moments as a mother. And I'm really happy that you do this. And I'm really happy that you do this. And I really think it makes a difference in his life and his everyday. And it's a really cool thing. And I want you to talk about it because I suck at it. I've tried to do it with him every morning, but I just suck at it.
Does he tell you you suck at it?
No,
Oh,
he
okay.
doesn't understand, but I do. And like, there are some mornings where I just can't do it and I don't do it right, or like we're too late and we don't do it. But then there are just some mornings where like he's distracted and like I don't get to do it. I've done it a couple of times, and he's at the point now too, and this is what's so cool about it. He's at the point now too where he knows what they are, and he says them back to me or just says them, and I don't even have to say anything now. So really amazing. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, I want to hear your perspective on it and like why you did this and what the reasoning behind it is. I mean, I could only imagine why. I understand why, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah. So I had seen glimpses of stuff like this. You know us. We look through parenting reel after reel, and the ideas are there, and we never really get a chance to apply them.
Yeah.
And I think for a while we were having some trouble with him getting on the bus in the morning. And it just got to the point where the bus driver wasn't having it. Nate wasn't having it. The principal wasn't having it. So it was more of like an amicable, like split, like, hey, Nate's not going to ride the bus in the morning anymore. And it wasn't really like, hey, Nate's not allowed, but it was me just being like, I feel like we need to take something out. What's the factor in the morning making Nate like this? And I felt like, who knows what a bus in the morning, first thing, with 30 children screaming on it could be like for a boy who already is very highly triggered by sounds. And he has a very hard time when people start getting loud. And I noticed this over and over, those few weeks before I had started doing it. And I just decided, you and I decided, we're just going to drop him off at the school. We're going to go there. We're going to do this thing. And we're just going to do it that way. And then he'll take the bus home.
Right.
One bus ride isn't going to hurt compared to the two that he was having, and it was hurting him anyway. So I think it was more so of the fact that, like, I wanted him to know, like, we weren't mad at him. We weren't disappointed in him. We weren't doing this as a punishment, not letting him take the bus in the morning. It was more so we're giving him the freedom and the space to be a kid and like have his quiet time in the morning, like just me and him in the car. Sometimes there's not even music playing, and we'll just like chill there. And it's not necessarily like, I'm not like revving him up for the day in the car, but once we get on that sidewalk in front of the school and like the doors are about to open, I do try to like just get down on his level and get right face to face. And I'm like, okay, are we ready? And I say, Nate is kind. Nate is kind. And he repeats. Nate is gentle. He repeats. Nate is gentle. And we go through this whole thing. And I just want it to be in his mind, as soon as he walks through that threshold and he's no longer with us, that it's okay to make these mistakes, but he's got to know that these are his expectations. And that first day, he got rave reviews. He got a note from the principal saying how great he did. He got a note from the teacher. I even got a phone call a couple days later, like, wow, Nate's really turned it around. Like, so proud of him, because we were getting so many calls like, hey, Nate's not doing well on the bus. Nate's not doing well with his friends. And it's like, we want him to succeed. We want him to thrive. And I feel like doing these affirmations and really seeing the change overnight.
Yeah. And
like you said, we've been doing it for, actually, it's been like 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been I've been dropping him off at the school for
But
a
see,
while now.
I didn't really know anything about it. You never really like said anything about it until I don't remember why. Oh, it was
You had to drop him off.
Yeah, I had to drop them off. There was a week there that you were working from home.
Right.
And it just made sense for me to drop them off.
Right.
And you were like, hey, just to let you know, I do affirmations with him in the morning. And that's why I said, I was like, huh? And you explained it to me. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it until I was there doing it with him, like how important it is. And like, Nate thinks of our parenting differently, and he understands that we're different, and he knows what he can get away with me, and he knows what he can get away with you, and he knows us, and he knows what he can do.
Yeah.
So I feel like he didn't take it as seriously when it was me doing it, and that's not a bad thing. It's just we have a different relationship with him.
Yeah.
I'm the goofy, playful type. You're serious, but you're passionate, and you're caring, and what you pour into him is that same thing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I'm not saying I don't do that, but I just do it in a different way.
Right.
And this was in that situation where, like, you know, for me, if this was like something I created in the morning, it would probably be like, let's be goofy and like get your morning started in a fun, silly way, you know, when he's not making me want to rip my hair out every morning. So,
well, I mean, that comes with the territory. Parenting.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, it's great because not only do I think it succeeds for Nate, but some of the other kids' parents have seen me do it too. And like, I don't try to like, let me be performing and like,
I am the greatest parent here this morning. Look at me.
Yeah. Like, I don't mean to do it that way. I think just like the one parent who overheard me, she looked at me and she goes, that thing you do for Nate, that's really cool. I'm going to start doing that for my son. And I was like, yeah, well, you know, I noticed that he was having trouble in the morning and like just wanted to set him up for the day. And she was like, no, I'm serious. I'm really going to try to like do something like that in the car. Cause like she only sees him part-time. So it was just one of those things where she wants to instill in him, like, I love you so much, but I know you're your own person and you're brave and you're smart and you're all these things, which is what I reiterate to Nate every morning.
Right.
And she said she was going to do her own thing. I haven't seen it. Like I said, it's not something that like I even like
not everybody
want to show everyone, and not everyone's going to do out in public like that either.
Right. Not
every kid's going to be able to pay attention like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where like you don't realize who you impacted.
Sure.
That's why I started doing it. Just to, impact Nate, and hopefully, who knows.
I love it even more now that you figured this out on your own and this wasn't something you saw. Like
I said, there were like dribs and drabs of like random different things, but it wasn't this exact like, this is what you do. You step down and you get in their level and you do these words. Like, no, it was just like I'd see little bits and pieces and you just brought it all together.
You're just a mom learning, that's all.
I'm trying.
You've created something that's right for your child.
Yeah. Well, that he's learning too. We're learning from each other.
Right.
So if there's anything in this episode that stood out to you that you want to add an additional tip or story or any feelings on it, we are definitely open to comments and we love hearing your feedback.
Yes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, whatever the heck that they say out there in this social media world we live in. But for now, until next week, I'm Matt.
I'm Jackie.
Here are the Hahns signing out.
Thank you so much for listening to Couple Chat. Make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify or YouTube Music. You can even subscribe to our YouTube channel where you could see this episode in video. Thank you to Hahn Films for editing and producing this episode. Let's chat soon.